Hey guys, got a challenge going on with Chris Natka, rated 839, and he's opened with d4. So what are we going to do? I'm going to play a Dutch against d4. So I played this for a few months and had reasonable success with it. It can be exciting. Okay, this is a 30-minute rapid game, unrated. So the idea with the Dutch defence is to castle kingside pretty quickly, and then maybe get the queen round here and not launch an attack up the kingside. So he's developed two minor pieces. He's got his e3 has been pushed now that the bishop's outside. So now the light squared bishop can deploy, bring his other knight out. All good basics. So the Stonewall Dutch involves d5 being played, and the classical Dutch has d6. So I'm going to castle now. Do I have to be concerned about this knight coming in? No. Be alright. So if you're looking for a way to respond to 1d4, the queen's pawn opening, you might want to look into the Dutch. Should we play a Stonewall? I've never really played the Stonewall. Let's have a go with d5. Never tried this in my life. But now we've got two pawns now competing for e4. So pushing e4 is just not going to happen. And that means that this bishop's going to have a hard time potentially finding somewhere safe. So what else can we say about this position? Okay, here comes the knight. Woo! Going to try and swap it off. That would liberate my light square bishop. So this knight's used two moves already. If it captures again, it's going off the board and taking three moves of development with it. And that would leave white with two bishops developed, and I would have 1, 2, 3 minor pieces developed after that bishop goes there, you see. So what you gonna do? Bad boys. So my opponent's been following very good opening principles so far. I think moving this knight in a second time might be inaccurate because he's not finished development yet. Maybe this knight should have come out first, say to c3, possibly bring the queen out to one of these squares before moving a developed piece a second time. So I've challenged it now with knight to d7. Okay, he's brought his other knight out. So if I capture, probably bishop takes. I don't know. Could attack the knight a second time with my bishop. Takes. It's got two defenders anyway. Now I can't kick that knight away because my pawns are already flanking it. So, what are we going to do? I'm going to reposition my queen. Nope, not just yet. Let's strike in the centre. c5 looks healthy. And if pawn takes, I've got bishop takes, and then my bishop would then be looking down towards white's king, and we've removed a key central pawn. Okay, so he's defended with c3. I'm kind of tempted to close off this bishop now. That's really going to grab some space on the queen side and make life quite difficult for this guy. He's going to have to come around here, but I can then follow it with b5, a6, and really shut the board off for that guy. Might look into the Stonewall Dutch as an opening against 1d4. I've not never really studied it. I know it's played at the highest levels. I know it's a good opening. Okay, there he goes. I'm just going to carry on. It's free space, and it just takes this square away from the bishop and from the queen. So it would be nice to maybe even get like all my pawns on light squares. And it'll leave this bishop as strong. But could I take out that bishop maybe? So today, so far, I've had quite mixed results in Rapid. I've played about half a dozen games and maybe won 3 or 4 of them. So I started looking into a new response to the Sicilian, which is called the Snyder variation. So I'll probably do a video on that quite soon. So now white is starting to look a little bit cramped. This bishop and the queen in particular. So where can the queen go? It can't go here or here. So this really only these 2 squares for the queen in terms of making progress up the board. All right. So white's knight can't come into that square. My knight could if it wanted to. I could even line up my bishop and my queen. That would put 3 attackers against this knight. So how about that move? If he pushes this pawn, I have got potentially bishop a6, and then if takes, I can recapture with a bishop as a tall pawn instead of recapturing with the pawn, and that could actually help me then just reinforce my light squared wall. This is an error now. See, what I've realised is that I've just lined up my queen with that dark square bishop, so now something like knight to g6. I have to move my queen away, and then knight can take the rook. That would be annoying. Question is, does my opponent spot that? Should have thought about that before I made that move. If he doesn't move the knight, I'm inclined maybe just to take the knight on the next move. My queen doesn't have to defend anything right now. These 2 knights are defending each other. The bishop's not under attack. So I think that would be the best move for white. Question is, does he spot it? But it is early in the morning for him, so we'll let him off if he doesn't. Okay, right. He's not seen the tactic, which is good. So I'm going to go in and just, without thinking, I'm just going to grab that knight. And if he takes with bishop, I simply have to move my queen out of the way. Knight stacking the queen, of course, so he's going to have to recapture either with the pawn or the bishop, and I think probably the bishop's the way to go, yeah. Okay, so I'm not worried about this knight, because the bishop can recapture, so Moves queen to here. So now we've got a situation where we've still both got both bishops on the board, but the pawns are quite deadlocked, which is, it makes sense considering it's called the Stonewall. Could even play like bishop to d6, and then if bishop takes, I've got rook takes, and that's helping me out by lifting my rook around these pawns. I can bring my rook over to g6. Oh, what are you doing with this move? Well, that queen's kind of gone rogue really around that side. It's not got much to do. I'm going to try and I want to get rid of that bishop. I don't want to give up my own dark square bishop. So how about that for a move? Attacking the bishop, and it can't go there, there, or there. So if he wants to save it, he's going to have to go backwards. Let's try it. Because I really want, if I can, I want to get onto that diagonal. I want my bishop on there. I want his bishop gone. If he moves back here, I've even got g5 to kick it yet again. Maybe bring my queen around, then behind the pawns, and really crunch it. Okay, he's gone for it. Okay, so I'm going to grab the bishop. He's going to recapture with the pawn. And now I want to maneuver my bishop round. But first we've got this issue to deal with. So I'm thinking maybe... Oh no, if he takes with the pawn now, I can't put my bishop there because the rook will just capture it. I could capture with the queen. That leaves this pawn a little vulnerable, but I'd kind of like to have my queen around the other side of the board, but I'm going to have to take the pawn back anyway. Unless I initiate the capture, but then we're going to have bishop on there, and that's not good, because my queen needs this diagonal. Okay, so what have we got? How about I just push? That's alright, so if he captures, he's capturing outwards, then I take with the bishop, and there's an undefended knight that he's going to have to deal with. Can't go there, can't go there, and can't go there. So is his knight going to end up on here? Think about remanoeuvring this bishop round. If I do that, there is a risk he plays f4 to clog up the board there. Then if he does that, my bishop can come like here and start looking at this diagonal, which is also very dangerous. Okay, I'll take that with the bishop. So now he's got an issue to deal with this knight. I really want to get rid of this pawn at some point. The queen would be a good piece to use. Maybe I can find like a queen fork, so I can attack two pieces at once with it. Maybe queen there, bishop there, two attackers on this pawn, and queen thinking about coming round. If this pawn moves as well, I could even attack from behind with the bishop. That'd be good. So I could even push the pawn, takes, and then I've got a fork on the rook, and oh, okay, it's moved that out of the way. That's annoying because it's defending this pawn. So I'm thinking now my bishop's going to have more luck on that diagonal, assuming this pawn's going to stay there for the duration. And I could have ideas of bishop b7, but then that just drops a pawn really. Okay, let's think about moving the queen round to the action area. I like that I've still got two bishops, but my light squared bishop is, as quite often happens in the Dutch, is a little bit awkward. So one idea is actually to wriggle it through to this side of the board. Okay, you've come in with an attack, have you? Right, I have to go here, I think, because I have to defend against queen takes h7. That would be checkmate if I moved my queen out of the way. So I have to defend that square. Now I can push h6 and kick the knight again. Kick it back. Knight's now undefended that pawn. So the knight can't come in anywhere. It'll just get taken. And I'm going to kick it away anyway. Even bring my bishop back down here. This is an idea. Keep my pawn where it belongs. See, the difference is that the pawn on h7, my king can actually defend the pawn. It can recapture. If I start pushing pawns, then we could end up with a situation where this pawn could be captured and this pawn might be pinned. So it just creates a target. So don't move the pawns that are in front of your king without a very good reason. So he's just said in the comments, I didn't think that was going to work. Maybe against the 700. It was an attack, but a fairly crude one. Now he's down to 17 minutes on the clock. I'm quite liking my position. I've definitely got a strong central presence with these 4 pawns. And I've got one good bishop and one quite poor one. Okay, so the next plan, so the knight's come back, it's defending this pawn again. This pawn's potentially weak. Can't really get my rook up just yet. I could play a5. That looks like a decent move. And it just stops any ideas of this pawn coming forwards. And if this pawn comes forwards, I've got bishops there, which I quite like. Might even move my rook over to b8, maybe. So if pawn goes forwards, I take, bishop takes, then I move my bishop to here with an attack on the rook and a discovered attack on his bishop as well. That'd be quite good. Okay, he's moved his knight again. This knight is busy bee. Okay, because I've got thoughts of push the pawn. Now I don't want to capture the knight with my good bishop, for sure. Really don't want to do that. So what else can we do? If I put my rook here, he's got a fork on the rook and the bishop. We don't want that. So I'm going to move my bishop there. Stops the knight from coming into c6. Also just generally lines up towards the king. And it connects my rooks, which is no bad thing. So he's not going to capture there. He can't go there. He can't go there. He could go here. That's a possibility, but why? There he's gone. But why? I suspect running out of ideas. Okay. So, are there any forking opportunities? Can't get there. So I can take with the bishop. I could attack the knight. If I put my bishop here and he moves, I've got the possibility of a discovery against that rook there. Is there an issue with that? It means he can come in with a fork, but then actually I would be quite happy with that. I would happily trade off my light squared bishop for his knight. Because my light squared bishop is not going to have much scope to move around the board with all these pawns wedged on the light squares. Okay, he's done that, so I'm going to move my rook up to a7 and see what his intentions are. If he goes back there, I can capture. So he can't take there, he can't go there, he can't go there. If he goes there, I'll take with the bishop, and if he captures the bishop, I'm going to recapture with the rook. And I've got rid of one of his more important pieces. There we go. Okay. All good. Now still this pawn should be my target. I'd love it if he pushes there. I could even instigate it by pushing myself, but then if he pushes b3, I've just clogged up my own bishop's diagonal. There's not much point there. I think about now bringing this rook back, maybe even both rooks on the b file. Could try and strike on the queen side there. I haven't got anything to worry about here, I don't think. It's defended by a pawn. That pawn's pretty secure. Defended twice now. Okay, we have a pawn push. That's fine. I'm not going to think too much about this. I'm just going to pop my rook there. It's on a dark coloured square, so I don't have to worry about the bishop. We've got opposite coloured bishops as well. This is the move I'm waiting for. I want to see that one. Because then if I put my bishop there attacking the rook's got no way of defending this pawn. So I'll get that key pawn. Then my bishop's going to have a lot of scope in the game. Might even move this rook across. Another option now is bishop to there. Oh, okay. Right, so what's he thinking? Let's move my bishop back. So I'm just attacking this pawn, and behind it the rook and the king. So he needs to defend that pawn. So I'm expecting rook to e2. This pawn's now undefended. How long's that been undefended? Oh yeah, since I moved my bishop. Okay, there we go. So now I can actually get a free pawn. But first, so I need to be careful though, because if rook takes there, right, he's got a discovery if he moves this bishop. So he could, for example, grab that pawn, I recapture, then he gets my rook. So before I do that, I'm going to double up my rooks. And then I don't have to worry about leaving that rook there. Then if bishop takes, I'll just capture with the pawn or the queen and I'm ahead. So it's good to get to this point in the game and material still be equal. That's a good result for Chris so far. Okay, the king has moved. Right, let's grab that pawn. Yeah, I can't see any problem with it. He doesn't have a check with the bishop, so I'm okay. Not worried about the queen coming in. So I'm a pawn up, but I've also got the advantage of my opponent's got these double pawns on the e-file. See what he's going to do now. Okay, so there's an opportunity now to trade rooks. Now this rook is the only defender of that pawn. If the queen wasn't there, I could maybe take the pawn, distract the rook. Bang, that would be good. In fact, that queen's starting to look, I mean, it's basically only in a defensive role right now, which isn't ideal. Okay, what to do? I could just drop my rook back, and then I've got two attackers against there. Then he might end up pushing the pawn. I could drop my bishop in here, possibly, which might be all right. No, I can't drop the rook back because bishop would catch it. Aha! Right, let's swap off. Simplify a little bit. Bishop takes. I've got this pawn. If king takes, I don't. If king takes, I could think about firing my rook up there with check, and then the king will have to retreat back onto the back rank. Okay, it's taken with the... Okay, is there anything wrong with this move? Not that I can see. You can't block with the bishop. So when the king retreats, I can grab this pawn with this bishop, and we are then maybe looking at some activity and some attacking opportunities around this king. It's all just tactics. Chess is tactics. Okay, I'm not going to think. So I now have also rook f2 check, and the king needs to be careful about going there because that would be a discovered check. So if I play rook f2, he's going to have to go here, and then I can actually grab this pawn because I'll have two attackers. I've got two attackers on it now. It's currently got two defenders. Okay. Whoa. Are you wanting to swap off your queen? Really? You double up your pawns again. Let's do that. So now I think maybe drop my bishop back here, where I'm attacking this pawn and also threatening a discovery on the rook. So probably push f4. Bishop's defending this pawn, so I can't go after this pawn. He's got these three pawns there. Looks like we're going to go into an ending, ladies and gentlemen. So I might think about bringing my king up now. There's not that many pieces left on the board with which to attack. So I can always try this as an idea and see if I can tempt him to go outwards, but if he's got any sense, he'll bring his king towards the centre of the board, get it onto a light square. Actually, no, if I go there and he goes here, I just grab another pawn. So that would be good. So that is a appealing looking move now. And of course, if he goes this way, I zip back to a2 with a discovered check. Okay, there we go. So I think either way, I should win material here. And I've got my rook onto the 7th rank, which is a really nice place for a rook. Okay, now that is the worst of the two, I think, because this drops the rook. And I'm going to get it for free as well. And then the bishop will be pinned if the king doesn't move. So this is now a losing position. In fact, since I moved my rook, I could actually just have also taken with the bishop. Okay, so now let's grab the rook. The king has done the right thing getting off the back rank, because that means that the bishop is now free. Okay, there we go, win by resignation. Fair play. But yeah, I thought that was a really good game. And for a player rated in the 800s, definitely interesting. And I did have a moment when his knight and queen were down here. Fortunately, I had my queen there to defend. But yeah, well played, Chris. And thanks for the game. See you soon, everyone.